And we are live. Hey, it is so good to see everybody here. It's been a long week since we got on here before, and I'm so happy to be here. We have a wonderful guest who is just off stage, and we're going to introduce him now.
Wow, when you said wonderful guest, I was like, who's here?
Well, you know what? The most wonderful guest of all. How are you doing, Phil?
I'm doing. It's been a very long couple of weeks. How about you?
You know, I always talk about work. Well, I get really, really busy at work where I'm putting in like 14-hour days and stuff. And day after day, it does affect the comic book hobby. But if I don't have a young son like you do, I remember those days, man.
I was going to say, if he's in the back here, so if he's making too much noise, give me a heads up. I could move to another room, but I think he'll be okay.
I don't think there's going to be one person that's going to be upset by hearing him coo. Okay,
and just so everyone knows, if somebody is upset and says that, then yes, we'll be thinking mean thoughts.
I agree. So, but hey, let's say hi to the chat. Trev, the shipping guru, my buddy from Wichita Falls. Okay, I used to live in Wichita Falls. It's a great little town. It's a little dusty town out in the desert, but it's an awesome place. The great Tina. Ooh, Wellbore. Now, Wellbore messaged earlier, said he might not be done with work. Okay, he's out west, so I'm glad to see you. Paul, Psychedelic Comics, he's down your way, Phil.
Oh yeah, yeah, a couple towns over.
Couple towns over. Yeah, we missed you here a couple weeks ago, but completely understandable. But I want to ask you questions about awesome comic book shops in your area, and I know you're going to talk about Fat Moose Comics. So
of course, that's the most awesome. I mean, that's the beginning, the end, and the middle of the discussion in my book.
We don't need to talk past that one, do we? But right here is the great Randy Resnake, who is an amazing artist. And Randy and we were down. I have some pictures of Randy, his wife, Reggie, up in Reggie's little, I don't know, comic book room, if you will, his studio. And Reggie has a whole bunch of original art up there. I think most of it's from Randy, okay? It is really, really good art. So,
and his brother Jake is a very talented athlete as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, we're learning stuff here. Richard Veith, okay? What a, just an awesome, great guy right here. It's always good to see you. Now we have the great Doug Bratton, who was here last week. And, well, I was there on Saturday at near his place, and he was on the show last week. And Nigel, Desired Comics, okay? Nigel is another one of those human beings. They call him the ambassador because he's always out there meeting great people. I'm on the comic book crowd on the Anachronic Comics, which I didn't see. There's Anachronic Comics. But on that show, we have Joe from Anachronic Comics. We have me, also Alan from Climate Comics. Then we have Stephanie, Madam Blaster. But I just saw a picture with Desired. He's out there with Ray Theo and with Alan, and I was jealous. Okay, I hadn't seen Alan in person for a while. And here is Rob Boswell, okay, a great guy from Kentucky. Rob likes his comic books, his cigars, and he's a big watch guy, okay? So him and we have a lot in common. Well, I don't smoke, Rob, but still, I like the smell of a good stogie, if that matters. But so, Phil, I want to thank you for coming out here today, okay?
Thank you for having me.
Now, we kind of threw together a little show here, and we're going to talk about some signed comic books, and we will get to those. But let's start talking. I want to ask you about great shops in New Jersey, which I didn't even let you know ahead of time, so I'm throwing this at you, and you're just picking it up. But listen, I'm not far from New Jersey. I definitely need to get to Snap Comics. But what other good shops are out in northern New Jersey area?
Well, right off the bat, we named the best two, at least in my opinion. Fat Moose and Zap. Yeah, Fat Moose is actually the oldest in New Jersey. That's been my LCS for over 20 years at this point. I can't say enough good things about them. Sean is a great guy, wonderful guy who runs the shop. And one thing I've been talking about. Oh yes, this is the Oscars red carpet show. Yeah,
Definitely the red carpet.
We're both
show.
going to get on the best dressed list.
Yeah, not this guy. I'm a t-shirt. I am wearing jeans though. I do have something on underneath the camera. Just letting the world know.
That's good. We're keeping the show PG.
Or are we? No. Let's not start that rumor.
Both actually, Fat Moose and Zap appeared in the documentary My Comic Shop Country, which you can now see for free on Tubi in the North America, and well, in the United States, let's say. I know some people in Canada messaged me that they weren't able to see it on Tubi, but it is available on both Apple and iTunes, or Apple iTunes rather, and YouTube. I think for a small fee in Canada as well. But yeah, that both Fat Moose and Zap were there. Two totally different shops. Trying to think if there's any other shops that I've found that are really outstanding. There's been a couple I've heard of that I haven't tried. Paul, Psychedelic, you might be able to speak more to this. Or actually, Doug and Dave probably know more about this one. Ray and Judy's, I've heard things about in Dover. It's primarily a bookstore. They've been around forever, but supposedly they're known for comics as well. I've also been to Funny Books in Lake Hiawatha.
Hold up, Phil. I got to say hi to a very awesome follower of the channel. Hey, Delilah. Hope you're having a great evening.
Yeah, I've been to Funny Books in Lake Hiawatha. It's I wouldn't call it one of the best, just in my opinion. It's good if, let's say, there's a recent issue that you may have missed. That's probably the best way to do it. I've also gone there in a pinch for bags and boards. I mean, other than that, to be honest with you, Northern New Jersey is not really. Well, Doug kind of blew me up here. I was going to say Northern New Jersey is not really, doesn't have that many shops around, at least anymore that I'm aware of.
40 is a lot of shops, buddy.
At least ones that I could recommend. I know that there's Time Warp. I've only been there once in Cedar Grove, and they're a little bit up in the air right now because their owner unfortunately passed away recently. And there is one in Livingston, close to where I grew up, that I think is actually more manga. I couldn't recommend it for comics, to be honest with you.
Okay, it's not the best. I've been to a few of those where they say they're comic book shops, but you're not really truly finding any comics in them. But you know what? You try to sell whatever is making you the most money, okay? So yeah, I'm not totally upset with them, but those are just not comic book shops that I'm a big fan of.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest with you, after seeing that My Comic Shop Country doc, the first thing that kind of popped in my head is that it's so difficult to do business as a comic shop, not just, your normal kind of things, but just because I feel like Diamond and Lunar and whoever just pops up now as a distributor does next to nothing to really support their people. And I mean, I don't understand it. This is your primary distribution list. Why make it as hard as you can?
Gino Presents. He's a great guy, has a great channel. He was a guest on here a few weeks ago, and I've been a guest on his channel too. But Gino, keep putting out new videos, okay? You're doing a great job with that. But he has an awesome show that starts on Fridays at 8:05, and it's a Friday night hangout. Just a good group of people in the chat, and he does a great job of moderating that show.
I have to check that out. I have to write it down.
Gino Presents. Yep. I explain to people, I think on this channel, people get tired of me saying it, but I live pretty much in the middle of nowhere, okay? Find a map of Pennsylvania, find a map of Pennsylvania that has where people live, and find the dark area where there's no people, and that's me. Okay, like, I'm out here in the middle of nowhere.
You're Matopia.
Matt, it is. But at the same time, when I say I'm in the middle of nowhere, I'm in the middle of everything. Pittsburgh is not that far away from me. I can go watch Major League Sports. I can watch off-Broadway plays. I can go see the ballet. Penn State University is about an hour away from me. You know, all kinds of, you know, world culture events up there. But I'm like in the middle of a whole bunch of towns that are about 50,000 people. And for the most part, they all seem to have at least one LCS. So I have one, two, I'm in the middle of about 6 LCSs within an hour drive, or at the very most, an hour 15 drive. So I do kind of luck out with that. But up there in New Jersey, you guys, I don't know. I'm looking at Doug. He's saying there's a lot. You're saying there's not so many.
Yeah, Doug might venture out a little bit more than me, I think. But I don't, Doug. You got to take me on a tour of these LCSs. I don't know of them. Yeah,
MT in the background is doing nothing but making everyone in the chat smile because he is adorable back there.
You hear that, buddy?
He is a star of the show. So anyhow, I have the title of this show is the CGC private signings. Are they good or bad? And I got a couple books back from CGC from the Todd McFarlane signing that I've been sitting on pins and needles waiting for. Now, Bill, hey, in your collection, do you have a lot of slabs in your collection?
Yeah, I think I have close to 30 slabs, maybe.
That would constitute a lot, yes. But have you ever been to a signing, or do you have any that are yellow labeled?
Yes, yeah, actually, the first official signing I went to that was witnessed was at Midtown, probably about 2018, to see Marjorie Liu. Right at the time, she had just, I think, finished Astonishing X-Men, X-23, and she had just started Monstrous. And I was really excited to see that. Hey, Steve.
Steve's my buddy. He was on this show a few weeks ago. Great conversation with Steve.
Yeah, I made a couple of rookie mistakes with signings back in 2008, 2009, the last time I went to New York Comic Con. I didn't know you had to have somebody witness a signature.
Yeah,
so
you have to go to them first.
Yeah, I had a X-Force, both X-Force and Wolverine from around the Fatal Attractions era, just for reference, with the hologram on it. One I had Joe Quesada sign it, the other Adam Kubert, and I brought it to the booth. I submitted it, and it came back with like that green label, and I was like, "Oh, I don't know what this means." And then I actually called them like, "Yeah, you needed one of us to see it." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I mean, that's a mistake I've never made again.
That would frustrate me to do that. Poor guy. So, and they wouldn't accept it. Like they wouldn't be like, "Yeah, well, we kind of witnessed it" or anything. No.
Of course not.
Well, I saw a guy. It was at a LCS signing, and there was a CGC witness there. Well, what this guy did is, this was a Clayton Crane. Second year in a row that Clayton Crane was there. And I just moved you big, and then you quit talking, and now I'm talking, and I'm little, okay? So anyhow, I like to play around with these. I don't have a rhyme or reason to. But anyhow, the guy was at the signing the year before. He had a book that he had Clayton Crane sign, but he didn't send it to CGC. And he's looking at me as he goes, "Do you think I could slip this in there? Do you think they would notice?" I don't know why he decided to, like, I didn't know this guy. I never met him. I don't know why he decided to, like, come clean with me. And I wasn't going to say a word, but, you know, one of the CGC people were there, and he's like, "Can I see that book?" And he showed it. He goes, yeah, I can't verify that he signed this, so I can't accept it. So the guy trying to ask me a question, just this random guy, yeah, he ended up not being able to get it verified. Where I think that if he would have just had Clayton Crane sign it and then walk over to the CGC people and be like, hey, here's the books, and then just slip that one in there, I don't think they would ever said a word about it.
Maybe. Let me ask you, how long was the line?
It was actually a long line. I got there about noon, and they gave me a number, and I had to enter this number in some website or whatever, and then I would get periodic text messages to update my estimated time. So I went shopping. I think I ate dinner with my son, and the line, I got there about 6:00 in the evening whenever the signing for me actually happened.
I was going to say, because if that line was longer and this guy was confessing things to you, maybe he would have just started confessing other things.
Yeah. Thank goodness I wasn't there long. But I got a text message telling me about a half an hour. And then whenever I got there, it was about an hour after I got there. So, but it was
fancy,
actually a pretty cool system. I guess they had people waiting out the door and around the building down the block in the year before. So they figured it out pretty quick. But,
good.
I would say Yellow Label books and me are something new. I really never. Blue Label books are cheaper. I can get a higher grade book for cheaper. So I just kind of always scanned over the signed ones. I just don't want to have to pay the premium.
Yeah.
But then CGC started doing this thing with the private signings. It started in late 2019, but Todd McFarlane was actually the first one. Which I'm going to start talking about cracking books, having them pressed, sent back down, because I did that with some good success. And it started because of a Todd McFarlane signing. I had an ASM 300 and a 9.4 slab. I had that thing since 2004. Okay. Didn't pay a whole lot of money for it because, well, it just wasn't worth a whole lot in 2004. Anyhow, I'm looking at this 9.4 whenever Todd McFarlane was there. And we can hear MT in the background. It is awesome.
Everybody's saying hi to Matthew.
Now, does he go by Matt or MT now?
We'd use it interchangeably.
Okay.
Online, I just try to put MT, but yeah.
Yeah. So anyhow, D White, everybody loves my voice, buddy. What are you talking about? But so anyhow, this ASM 300, I saw it. It was wavy. The cover was wavy, but all the corners were sharp. There was no color breaks. There was nothing. I sent that book back down to CGC, not for his signing. I wasn't real keen on the signing yet. And it came back a 9.8. So I was like, I had a lot of success doing that. But this book right here, and I'm going to show off some books, okay, guys? Everyone on YouTube as a comic book channel shows off these books, and I just had this book out I showed it off like a couple weeks ago, but this was a 7.0 Blue Label. I sent it off to be signed by Jim Steranko whenever he was down there, and he was down there, I think 2000 is when he was down there. Yeah, it was 2000. He put awesome signature on here. Love this book, classic cover. But that was the first time I ever did it. And I was kind of hesitant to do the private signings because even though you didn't get your book CGC yellow labeled because you didn't go to them first to have them witness it, you still got the experience of seeing the artist in person, having that, even if it was 30-second conversation. People who get to have the book signed by the artist or the author right there, they get that experience. Well, I didn't have that experience with this, and it made me hesitant to send it in the first place. But honestly, Pete, I think it's pretty cool knowing that I sent that book down, it came back signed. So I still kind of like the private signings, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's something you have to kind of weigh out. Number one, is it an artist that you really, just like you were saying, you want to meet? Do you value the experience over the product? Number two, is it even an issue with the only other green label I could think of that I have? It's a whole nother story, but it's signed Uncanny by Dave Cockrum. Unless CGC starts doing seances, they're not going to do any kind of private signing with Cockrum or anybody who's passed anytime soon. But I have that one slabbed because I have a good story behind it.
Yeah.
But on a side note, we actually met Steranko right after we were engaged. My wife's over here. I'm not staring at a blank space. At Garden State Comics Fest, which happens every June, late June, usually here in Northern Jersey.
Okay.
Which, if you haven't been, Matt, I encourage you to go. They usually have a pretty good set of guests, and if you get a VIP pass, which is pretty inexpensive, you can go to the front of the line, which we did for Steranko. And I didn't get anything signed by him as far as a book goes. I don't think I actually have any Steranko, but I bought a couple of prints from him, and he talked to us for about like 15, 20 minutes maybe, to the point where I was like, are we bothering anybody behind us? Because he saw we had just gotten,
no, that's a long time to talk to him.
We had just gotten engaged, so he was going on and on about, oh, it's great to find people in love. It was kind of like the Stanley appearance in Mallrats, where he's like, oh, isn't that a lovely couple, that type of thing. But in a couple, actually this past year, when I was at the Bretons comic book garage.
The Bretons.
Yes. The gentleman who organizes Garden State Comic Fest happened to show up. And I told him that. I was like, I felt bad, like I was holding up. He's like, dude, Steranko does that for everybody. You were perfectly fine.
Huh. But now, Steranko is one of those people. Like, he is one of my favorite artists. And I did, splurge for the Hulk annual #1 cover image on it. I thought it was a good one, but I picked that signing because, Jim Steranko, like I say, he's one of those awesome characters. And you know what? I always wanted a Stan Lee signature. I just waited too long. It never happened. So I didn't want to miss out on, great Steranko, Jim Steranko. But my other favorite artist is not artist, but creator, is Roy Thomas. So I sent this book. I'm trying not to get glare on it. I sent this book off to CGC to have it signed and yellow labeled, sent back up. But so happy to have this awesome cover in here. But it made me want to do more. Okay, remember what I said about some books that I cracked and sent back? I sent another one back that did really well. I sent a Spawn 1 black and white. Now, if you're a Spawn collector, you know that the Spawn black and white #1 cover is hard to get. It was actually a 1 in 50 variant for, I believe it was Spawn number 62. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was 62.
I'll forgive you.
The comic book shops, if they bought 50 of them, they would get a black and white. And this came out in 1997, and Spawn came out in 92, but it's still listed as a Spawn #1. It's a hard-to-find variant, especially in a high grade. At a 9.4, it came back a 9.8, and that was a pretty good one, okay? And the two books that I sent down to Todd McFarlane were that Spawn 1 9.8 and that ASM 300 9.8. And I'll show you guys at the end to see what grades they came back at to make sure that I made a good deal. But I bring those up. This is one of my favorite books in the collection, if not the favorite book in the collection. I bought this slabbed as a 9.4 probably 13, 14 years ago, okay? And loved it, okay? 9.4. This is a hard book to find, 9.4. It's 53 years old. But I'm like, you know what? If this thing gets pressed, it could come back pretty good. This is a pretty good book, like a giant grail in my collection for me, okay? Like, I wouldn't care if this book wasn't worth much, but to me, this character is. So when this came back in 9.6, signed by Roy Thomas, and it's kind of hard for me to show you with the camera here, but
I can see it.
I went for the signature in the trade dress because of this Barry Windsor Smith cover. There's just so much going on in this cover. I didn't want the signature to interfere with the art. I did the same thing with this one too. And so those are two books, but this one came back at a higher grade than what it went down as. This book here, this 9.4 Conan 24, that was just a raw book that I had in the collection. I pressed that, cleaned it myself. But this one came back as 7.0, okay? So those books that I sent down to the Todd McFarlane signing, I'm hoping that they came back at a 9.8, okay? Like, that was kind of a big worry of mine. And you've been a collector for a long time, Phil. I don't get the impression that you collect comics for value. Like, that's not your main motivation, is that?
No. I think that's the type of thing. If I started chasing, comics for value, then I knowing the responsibilities I have outside of comic book collecting, I feel like that'd be a slippery slope.
Yeah. I know people that do. They collect comics and they look at value. I've turned value not the main motivation of my comic book collecting hobby. Trust me, not the main motivation. But every now and then you buy a book, you pay $20 for it because you like the artist, you like the story, or you want to fill in a gap. And then 10 years later, you're like, you just see that book on Instagram or somewhere, and you're like, holy smokes, this is a $500 book. Like, what happened? So watching the value of books, it does bring me joy, okay? And I did the same thing with my investments. My 401k, whenever it jumped up from $7 to $8, I could not be any happier and over the moon for that, okay? But in all honesty, whenever I see the values go up, I do enjoy it. But if I see the values go down, I don't freak out either, okay? It's not going to ruin my soul. But those two books, I'm hoping that they came back at a decent grade so that I don't lose value, because someday, I have a little me, and, whenever I get old and gray, can bald men get gray? Is that a thing? But anyhow, whenever, I decide to kick the bucket, I want to give it to my kid, but I don't want to give him a burden of a bunch of comic books he doesn't know what to do with. I want to give him an asset that he can flip and sell and make money off of it. So,
yeah.
You have to be cognizant of that part of the hobby.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, as a new father, that was the first thing that really, was just a kick in the head. Was like, oh, okay, I'm no longer just getting these for me. This is going to be for him and for any other children that we may have. And it's, even part of the organizing process, my wife has said to me, I've said to her, look, there's a lot in this collection that I've just accumulated over the years that I just have no attachment to. And ideally, I'm going to want to go ahead and get rid of these at some point. It's the ones that just don't mean anything to me. And my wife has chimed in and was like, yeah, I don't want to put our son in a position where, he's 20, 30 years down the road, starting out on his own. He's like, oh, I have my dad's gigantic comic book collection. We have to figure out what to do with.
Well, that's the thing. As a collector, we have to think about, it's not, I collect for me, you collect for you, but that we can't take them with us. So like a wise collector has to think of what's the end game? What's going to happen to the collection? And, maybe you give it to charity. That's something. Or maybe your wife just throws it out or puts an ad on Facebook Marketplace, free to whoever picks it up.
Well, we've had those conversations too, where I'm like, look, I have the CLZ app, it updates with the value. I actually, we haven't done that, not to take a grim turn or anything. We haven't done estate planning yet, but one of the things I intend to do is just say, hey, look, this is the app. This is the password. Click this button. If you have to unload, this is who you go to. There's certain stores I'm not going to name names, and I understand that they're running a business that you'll go to, and they always have great stuff on sale, but because they really pay
Nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, yeah, that's great for the store, but if you're looking to unload all at once, which I presume my wife would probably want to do, we all know it's not the best way to get the value.
Yeah, I mean, it just isn't. So
yeah,
well, having them in a way they can flip is easy, which is kind of why I like to have some books slabbed. And I don't have all my books slabbed. I don't know how many thousand. I can look it up, but there's thousands of books behind me. Most of them are not slabbed. The vast majority are not. But so I was talking about sending books down to CGC for private signings. Now, I did have a couple books signed at the Clayton Crane signing that I was talking about. Reggie collects, okay? I talk about that guy a lot on this channel. But
who's that?
Yeah, exactly. Well, the thing is most of us in the chat, you and I included, like we follow that channel. We love that channel. So in 2000, when the world was shut down because of COVID, they did an online comic book con. And I will never remember the name of it. But Reggie was a guest interviewer in that con. Okay. So from his home in, the Bay Area, the San Francisco Bay Area, he got to interview Clayton Crane. I have no idea where Clayton Crane was sitting, okay? But just like you and me, we're, what is this, hundreds of thousands of miles away? Or light years, whatever it is. But anyhow, he asked Clayton Crane a question. What is your favorite comic book cover that you've ever done? And there's a lot of famous ones. And this one, I don't know if it is famous, okay? This is Sensational Spider-Man number 32, but Clayton Crane was talking about this. And I have a full run of this series up in those drawers you see behind my right shoulder here. Well, I pulled it out. I'm like, holy smokes. This isn't, and I'm seeing you. See yourself, Phil. Wave to yourself. Yeah. But anyhow, I pulled this out and I'm like, holy smokes. This is like a legit great cover that I never really noticed this before. This was in my collection, and one of those books that, I get a pull list. I put them in, I organize them, but I never really noticed this book. So I went there and I had them sign it. And man, is that so hard to get signatures on or get the camera on there. But let me make myself big.
Yeah. No, I think it's just the colors itself are throwing it off because the red.
Yeah,
when it
red,
goes
white,
further
blue,
back,
but such an awesome book. Now, this is like a really awesome book for me to have in a collection because I got to interview Clayton Crane, and while he was signing that book, I interviewed him. He was on my YouTube channel talking about the process of going through that, and every time I see that book, I can always go back to that YouTube video and relive that signing where he did that. He also did something else for me. He had an Insanity. He calls it his Infinity Murder Infinity signature. And this is a Red Sonja book. What is this? Invincible Red Sonja, okay? A variant cover. But this Murder Infinity signature, I'll be honest with you, this book doesn't really mean anything to me. Yes, I'm a Conan fan. Yes, as association, I love Red Sonja. But I can't collect all these covers anymore. There's just Dynamite puts out too many covers. I really don't even collect her anymore. I collect the old Marvel, Red Sonja run. But this signature here, I really just bought this to pay for the other books that I was having signed there. I was going to sell this. This signature is too cool for me.
Yeah.
And Spencer, my cameraman, he's like, no, Dad, you got to keep that. It is just such a cool, colorful signature. So, that book's staying in the collection just because, the signature and the story that went along with it.
Can I ask you a question about Clayton Crane?
Yeah.
So I know
I didn't take my wife to that signing.
Oh,
so
that's a smart move.
That was, yes. Now, it's probably too soon to say that, okay? But
enough time's passed. We're good with that.
But I kept her with me. Or kept her away, I mean.
I know around the time that Clayton was doing those sensational Spider-Man covers, um, there was he had done a mini series for Carnage. I think it was Carnage USA was one of them. Now I know that you're a veteran yourself, and thank you very much, of course. Um,
Thank you.
there's a lot of discussion about one particular issue of that where there's a flag draped around Carnage, and it's kind of cascading on the ground.
I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah,
Yes.
and there's some veterans in the community I know of who absolutely hate that cover because they say it's
She never touched the ground.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What is your view on that?
You know, my grandfather served in World War II, and very, very proud American. You know, proud of all Americans. Okay. Who was it? Bruce Springsteen. Okay. His Born in the USA album. It was Bruce. There was a American flag in the background. Bruce was standing with his back/butt facing you in the album cover, and he had a dirty ball cap sitting in his back pocket. And my grandfather said, he goes, "You know what? I like a lot of the songs on this album. Yeah, World War II guy like Bruce Springsteen. He goes, I don't really care for the album cover because he goes, you're not supposed to use it in that way." And that is correct. But one thing about culture that I've noticed, culture can change. And while that would have been extremely disrespectful in the 1940s, I feel like Clayton Crane meant it in a respectful way. And I have a signed book. Todd McFarlane did it. It's Amazing Spider-Man. I think it's 325. It's above my head right now on one of the angled walls. I'm not going to get it. But that flag is tattered. It's torn, but it's not touching the ground. I mean, that one would suffice. The one touching the ground, I don't know, Phil. I personally don't find it disrespectful, but I know that anytime the flag touches the ground, it's a touchy subject.
Yeah.
But what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, to me, I'm of the opinion that if there's something you don't like, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, what is Joe asking? I'm sorry. Why not slap those signed comics that CGC didn't accept yourself? That is a great alternative. Slapping them myself.
I wonder.
Not CBCS.
Yeah, I don't
kind
know.
of curious. Yeah. I mean, when it comes to anything imagery-wise on comics, I'm the kind of person, if it's something that I honestly don't like it, I'm just not going to buy it. But you're not going to find me on the message boards or online saying, oh, this is terrible and this is woke or this is unwoke or still sleeping. I don't know. I just think that at the end of the day, you got into comics for a specific reason, and to be offended and complain about something, I was trying to put it in a nice way, probably wasn't the reason. So look, as far as comics go, you could throw a stick and find any type of subject that you'd like.
Yeah.
If Carnage, who's a villain, of course, having a flag on the ground bothers you that much, okay, don't read that. Go to the next book. Go to something else.
We're comic book people, and we're talking about Carnage being a bad person. Carnage isn't real.
Exactly.
So to say Carnage is a bad person,
yeah.
Carnage is a character that's drawn or written to be not bad, but that was just an individual, piece of art. I don't think that individual piece of art is evil, but to quote the great William Shakespeare, there's more things in heaven and earth, dear Horatio, than what are dreamt up in our philosophies. There's all kinds of ways of looking at the world. And I don't really necessarily, unlike you, if I don't like it, I don't buy it. I don't really need to protest it or anything like that. It's so, yeah.
I had
live and let live, okay? I think John Lennon wrote that, did he not?
I had a similar experience. That was Paul McCartney.
It might have been Paul. Yeah, it was
Let's
one of
just-
the Beatles.
Let's just say it was Ringo, and we'll call it a day.
Or Pete Best. Okay, we're going to
There you
throw
go.
some people off there.
I kind of ran into a similar situation when the Ms. Marvel show was coming out. There's a gentleman who is a former county official, believe it or not, who had put up an article from Variety that the headline was something like Marvel's first Muslim character, has a TV show coming out, something like that. And I'll be honest with you, the article itself was just not good.
Okay.
And what kind of caught my attention was that this former official was like, "Oh no, this is what Disney's trying to shove down our throats. This is terrible and disrespectful." So I'm not the kind of guy who, especially on Facebook, if you see a political discussion, will jump in just because you're not winning over any fans that way. It's wasting your time at the end of the day. But I just happen to go in and just say to him, "Hey, look, it's not the, yeah, she's a Muslim character, but that's not the main focus of the story." And it's like, at the end of the day, I don't let the religious beliefs of fictional characters bother me. They're not real.
They? Yeah.
And it was, I actually was kind of shocked I didn't hear anything back from that guy afterwards, but I did notice his wife liked that comment.
Okay. Awesome. Hey, Vinny Whitlock is here. Now, I think Bentley liked my quote. Is that what I'm getting here, Doug? Your dog likes it? Hey, I do that all the time. I mistype. Actually, I think there's been an update to the autocorrect on Apple phones because I am having a horrible time anymore with my my spell check. I am misspelling things or writing words, and I'm like, there's no way that I worked it.
Yeah, my spell check just gave up on me at least 4 years ago.
4 years ago. So I'm going to show one more book off before I get to the two big books that I sent off. But, I talked about the Roy Thomas ones. This was cool. I love this one. This whole book, okay? There's so many reasons I like the book, and I like having it signed. One of the big ones is Roy Thomas. I got to have a conversation with him. It was short, but I still got to talk with him. I watched him sign it, but I got to experience Joe having a full, long conversation. And Joe and I just talked about it a couple of weeks ago on this show whenever he was there signing it. And so sending books down to CGC, some people are against it, and I get it. I do think the experience is better when you're there in person than as opposed to just shipping them off. And Trev, I'm not sure if Trev is still in here, but let me switch me to big guy now.
Mm-hmm.
Trev, I'm finally into Trev, the shipping guru verse, okay? Mm-hmm. And if you look over here, I already have one of the stickers up on comic book cabinets, okay? So thank you very much for that, Trev, because he's such a good dude.
Trev is awesome.
Always in your Saturday morning show in the chat. Just such a great guy in the comic book community. Oh, here he is. Right here. And actually, that's the same image on the sticker, okay? His avatar. So thank you very much for that, Trev. But Phil, should I do an unboxing of these books?
No, I think people have had enough.
Yeah, they don't want to see these Todd McFarlane signed books, okay? But, hey, Joe's talking about the day in Rhode Island, okay? And you know what, Joe? Right back at you. That was one of my great comic book experiences right there, okay? And Tina, or where are we at? We're skipping on the chat here, okay? We love Trev, okay? Anyhow, so this... I'm going to take it out of the plastic here. I'm not a big fan of the plastic CGC sends. It's, you can't see through it.
Yeah.
Anyhow, this book has this really dope Todd McFarlane in it. Now, this book I bought raw, and I have a long story on YouTube how the comic book shop owner just trashed another book that I sent with this, and this one survived the shipping to CGC, but it was a 9.4, and I know it was a 9.8, maybe 9.9 whenever I sent it down there. It came back a 9.4. I sent it off to be, cracked and pressed and done. Now, there's not very many of these books out there. This is probably the holiest. There might be another one, holiest grail of Spawn comics, but it came back a 9.8. Okay, so I kind of lucked out with this one. This is a pretty cool one. Tina, show please. I see her comment in the chat.
Matt, did you request the yellow ink, or was that Todd's choice?
I let the artist take over. I'm going to be honest with you. I kind of wish I had the TODD Todd McFarlane signature, not the T period. Okay, but we can't always get what we want. All right, take this other book out of the crappy plastic. Now, again, this book I bought at a 9.4. Okay, it was slab in 2004, so almost 20 years ago. Bought McFarlane signature on it, and it's pretty much the exact same as this book. Okay, although it shows up a lot better on the black and white Spawn book. So let's see what this one came back at. 9.6. That is a big hit. Whenever we're talking about what we're going to do with our collections eventually. So, you know what? 9.6 is still a pretty big hit. But you know what? Life is short. We can't get too upset about it, can we? So, what do you think I should do? Should I throw this away, Phil?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I said just do it as a giveaway.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, you're the guest tonight. It's your idea. I'm going to send it off to you, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
But listen, it's kind of funny, Life is very interesting. There's all kinds of avenues, and if you are open to opportunities, you'll be shocked at how often doors open up for you, okay? Because the day I got this back, I believe it was Thursday. It was Thursday. The day I got it back, and I opened it up, and I saw it, and I was like, I wasn't crushed. I laughed, my wife was there. We laughed. I'm like, you win some, you lose some. It was a 9.4. But I'm looking at it. I see why it's a 9.6. It was a bad press job. They didn't break any color. The corners are still sharp. It's flat, but they misaligned the front cover to where it's a little bit crooked, and it's overlapping the up top here. Not a whole lot. It could be fixed. I press enough books. I've seen this exact same scenario issue happen. It's an easy fix. And I saw that on her, and I probably wasn't going to send it back. I was going back and forth, but the day I got it, CGC announced another private signing. None other than David Michaelini, who is the writer of this same comic book. I'm sending this book back. I'm having it signed, repressed. Fingers crossed this book can come back as a 9.8 and, get a better signature combination.
Yeah, I was thinking about sending in the first appearance of Cardiac, my favorite Spider-Man villain, for that same signing. I have to look. I think the copies that I have aren't particularly great grade, so I've got to do a little examining.
Hey, sometimes it's not about the grade. Sometimes it's just about the signature. I got to go way back in here. Oh, not too far. I could have got a higher grade book than this, but you know what? I don't care. It presents very well. It has an awesome signature on it. It does not always have to be the highest grade book for you to enjoy it as part of your collection. So, heck yeah. So,
yeah. I do have a book.
David Michaelini signing too.
I do have a book I've been meaning to go resubmit and get pressed. I don't know if you remember, a while back, I actually sent you a copy of this too. I have was it NYX number 2 or 3, the first appearance of X23, slabbed, and it came back, I should say, as a 7.5. And I couldn't really see why, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't remember off the top of my head what the grader's notes indicated, but so I was like, maybe I should just send it, get it redone, and see if we could push that higher.
It doesn't hurt. I lucked out. I got my Coney 9.4 up to 9.6. I got at one time that ASM 9.4 is what turned into a 9.8. And then that Spawn was a 9.4 too. So you know what? A lot of times it does work out. Now, here's a comment from Paul. I did have CCS press the ASM 300, but I'm not going to knock them, okay? Pressing is an inexact science. It's an art form. It truly is. But they're the same people that got it from a 9.4 to a 9.8. So I'm not going to say anything bad. It could have been a simple, just mispress. But at the same time, the difference between a 9.6 and a 9.8 is there are differences, but they're just not that big and they're not that pronounced. So, so Phil, if you're worried about CCS pressing, I feel that they do a decent job with stuff.
What have you had any experience with them as far as like cleaning goes too, or just with pressing?
Yeah, cleaning. Where's that killer book I have? My favorite book in the collection. Where'd I put it? I gotta worry. I don't want to drop any of these books and end up having having to send them down to be repressed or re-slabbed. I mean, anyhow, this book right here. This was a cream to off-white. Whenever I sent it back down, it was a 9.4. When I sent it back down, this book came back off-white to white. And I am telling you, the back, I wish I had a picture, and I'm sure I do on one of my YouTube videos, because I did a video about should I send this or not, and I ended up sending it. But man, this was like, I didn't realize it was caked with dirt. I just thought it was, brown pages because of time and art, or not art, but just time.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
But no, it came back, off white to white. So they do a good job of actual cleaning the books, not just pressing.
I have an astonishing tales that my dad gave me, the first appearance of Scott Lang.
Ooh, 27.
Yeah, and one of his brother-in-laws, I guess, had it as a kid. It was their childhood book. And I guess at some point in the early 90s, they gave my dad a stack of books to give to me. And my dad put it in his garage and forgot about it. So he finally remembered, I'm going to say about a year ago, and gave it to me. And I was like shocked to see that. But looking at the quality, of course, you're talking pretty much brown pages, and right in the first thing when you open it up, because I always check for signatures now too. Yeah. At the top, one of my step uncles wrote his name in pencil. So I called CGC one day and I was like, look, how do you guys do this? Like, well, we have a special eraser. I was like, oh, should I try it? No. You don't do it. We can certainly do it, but I've been reluctant to send it, to be like, hey, can you guys do this? I don't know, because I hear people always trying to push third-party pressers and cleaners, and I know everybody has their favorite, but I haven't had experience with them yet. So
hold on one second. Right here, I bought a book from GarageCon, and this book was laid out specifically for me. Reggie found in his the 100,000, the Uncle collection, if you will. Okay, and this book, and it was in bad shape. Okay, actually, this isn't the book I'm talking about. But anyhow, maybe it's over here. Hold on a second.
Sure.
Here it is. Okay. Although I think that was from that same thing, but I sent this off to Magic Pressing. Okay. And he's a guy. He's on Instagram. If you just look up, I think it's Magic_Pressing. Forgive me if I'm off. But Magic Pressing. I sent him this book on purpose. I knew that it wasn't going to come back very good, but it was absolutely filthy. I mean, it was almost caked dirt along here. And I am absolutely shocked at how well this book came back. And there are some ink breaks. Okay. And it will not get a high grade, but it might get an 8.5, 8.0. This book, if I just would have sent it to CGC, it probably would have got a 4.0 to 5.0 and probably closer to 4.0. And so there are some good people out there. Magic Pressing did a really good job with this. And this whole back, buddy, this was just dirty. And, it's white as can be. So, white pages. So
I got to look him up.
He's a good one. Yeah. After the show, I'll send you, I'll go on his site and I'll message you or something like that. Or
I appreciate that.
But yeah, this one, I was thinking it was this one, but it's not. It was this Conan 13. I have a goal. I want to get some of the early Conans in high grade, and that way I have them all. But I already have the two of the big ones. With the Conan 1 and the Conan 24. But anyhow, hey Phil, you know what? This has been awesome chatting with you. Thanks for coming on to the channel.
I could talk for hours with you, Ben. Thank you so much. And I've said this enough times, I might as well say it here. If whether you like my channel or not, you could blame Matt Woods, because if it weren't for Matt, I 100% would not have jumped on YouTube.
But Phil, I remember when you're asking me a whole bunch of questions, and I didn't want to be a fraud, because you've been doing this YouTube game long enough. You get it. We don't know all the answers. I am not a polished YouTuber, and I don't know that people are polished YouTubers. Although I am going to plug the DC Watch. Okay. They do an amazing job. And if you watch that Shazam video, and I just posted about it on Instagram, and they just popped it or dropped it like 4 days ago, that thing looks like a serious Hollywood production.
Oh, yeah. It's great. It's spectacular. Those are the kind of videos I'm playing with my phone, cursing every 5 minutes because iMovie is just not a great app. And I'm looking at that, and I was like, how do they do that?
I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, oh, I can't do it. There was a time that Pretty Fly was on there, and there were like 6 different videos and at different degrees of opaqueness, and I'm like, dude, they got some serious, powerful editing software there. So,
yeah.
Other than those guys, we're just trying to figure out this YouTube game, and I didn't want to give you bad advice. So I do remember, I was like, oh, Bill, you're a great guy. I hope I give you good advice.
I think you did. Either that or we're both screwed. So
I don't know. Your channel is really taking off. People like it. Your Saturday morning show is just last week today. Is that what it's called? Yeah.
Yep.
It's just not right in front of me. I was like, oh, I hope I didn't mess it up. But last week today, it's just such a fun Saturday morning show where a lot of people just get to hang out there. So, hey, Doug, I see that. Doug's leaving here, but we can't stay on here all night. But guys, this is a great show. But Phil, before we leave, you want to let people know what you have coming out?
Sure. This week, I will finally be announcing my 2-year, 200 subscriber giveaway and what we'll be doing. So stay tuned for that. Other than that, my series with my wife where we are chronicled our organization is continuing. And she answers some of the comments left on the last video. regarding my questions as far as the concrete goes. So if you have not seen that yet, and if you've not replied yet, go ahead, because she will answer you one way or the other.
But excellent. Can't wait to see everything come out. But congratulations on your 2-year and 200 subs. You're higher than 200 subs now, aren't you?
I'm roaming around 218 at the moment.
See, you're climbing up there. But congratulations. But
thank you,
guys. I want to thank everybody for showing up today. Much appreciated. It was great people in the chat. Phil, thanks again for coming. But everybody, thanks for watching, and you have a great night.
Thanks, everybody.
Mhm.